Jax's revenge domain, standing 180 feet above the Texas Gulf Coast, surrounded by miles of steel pipes and processing towers, I watched Timothy Harper hand me my termination notice. He thought firing the expensive old guy would save his quarterly budget. He didn't realize I was the only Level 3 ASME inspector certified to sign off on pressure vessel integrity for the entire refinery. As I walked off that platform, I didn't argue. I just started my stopwatch. The silence that followed would cost him $25 million and nearly 200 jobs. My name is Richard Wells, and I'm 54 years old. Most folks call me Rich. I've been inspecting pressure vessels and steam systems for 16 years, ever since I got out of the Navy. Before that, I spent 20 years keeping nuclear reactors running on submarines. You learn real quick in the Navy that corners don't get cut when lives are on the line. Steam under pressure doesn't care about your feelings or your budget, it'll kill you just the same. The morning started like any other at Coastal Petrochemical. The sun was already beating down at 6:30 a.m. and the humidity made everything feel sticky. I was up on platform 7 checking the main steam header that feeds the catalytic cracker. This thing runs at 900 degrees and 1,500 psi. When it's working right, it turns crude oil into gasoline. When it's not working right, it turns everything within 500 yards into a crater. My inspection checklist had 47 items on it. Number 23 was giving me trouble. The X-ray films from last week's weld inspection showed what looked like slag inclusions in 3 critical joints. In layman's terms, there were impurities in the metal that could cause cracks under pressure. Not might cause cracks. Would cause cracks. Rich, we got a problem. That was Nicholas Thompson walking up the catwalk. Nick's been my apprentice for 2 years now. Good kid, 26 years old, listens when you talk, and most importantly, he doesn't panic when things get complicated. That's rare these days. What kind of problem, Nick? Harper's in the office screaming about the schedule, says we're 3 days behind and corporate's breathing down his neck. I clipped the X-ray film back to my clipboard and looked at Nick. The kid was nervous, shifting his weight from foot to foot. Timothy Harper had been the corporate safety director for exactly 6 weeks. Before that, he was some kind of efficiency consultant in Houston. He had an MBA from somewhere expensive and wore suits that probably cost more than most of the guys here make in a month. He was also the nephew of William Harper, who owned 40% of Coastal Petrochemical. Well, he can scream all he wants, I said, tapping the film. These welds don't pass ASME Section 8 requirements. Until they get redone, nothing gets pressurized. He said something about override authority. I've heard that phrase before. Usually from people who think safety regulations are suggestions. Nick, let me explain something to you. That steam line we're looking at carries superheated steam that could cut a man in half if it blows. Override authority doesn't work on physics. That's when I heard the $500 shoes clicking up the metal stairs. Timothy Harper climbed onto the platform like he was walking into a boardroom. His hard hat was pristine white, which told you everything you needed to know about how much time he spent in the field. I'd been watching this guy for 6 weeks and I'd never seen him get his hands dirty. Wells, he said, not even looking at the equipment. We need to talk. Sure thing, Timothy. You want to hear about these weld defects first? Or should I start with the corrosion issues on the feed lines? His face went red. In my 20 years in the Navy, I dealt with plenty of officers who thought rank trumped experience. Harper had that same look. It's Mr. Harper. And I want to hear about why my maintenance shutdown is 3 days behind schedule and $150,000 over budget. I showed him the X-ray film, because these joints need to be cut out and re-welded. You can see the inclusions right here, here, and here. ASME code says any inclusion larger than 3 millimeters in a pressure-bearing weld requires complete replacement. I don't care what ASME code says, Harper interrupted. I care about getting this unit back online. The parent company is expecting us to restart Monday morning. Then they're going to be disappointed. I'm not signing off on defective welds. Harper stepped closer. He smelled like expensive cologne and desperation. The kind of desperation that comes from promising your uncle something you can't deliver. Let me explain something to you, Wells. I've reviewed your personnel file. You're making $95,000 a year plus overtime. That's $130,000 total last year. I can hire 3 technicians for what you cost, and they'll do what they're told. You can hire 100 technicians. None of them have my ASME certification. Without my signature, this plant doesn't restart. That's federal law. Nick was watching this exchange like a tennis match. I could see him trying to figure out who was going to win. In the Navy, we had a saying, rank is temporary, but stupid is permanent. Harper was about to prove that saying right. Federal law is one thing, company policy is another. I have the authority to override safety holds for operational necessity. That's when I knew this wasn't going to end well for somebody. I looked at Nick. The kid had gone pale. Nick, walk away, go check on the cooling tower. But Rich, go. After Nick left, I turned back to Harper. Timothy, in 20 years of Navy service, I've seen what happens when people take shortcuts with pressure systems. I've written reports that went to admirals about sailors who died because someone thought the schedule was more important than the procedure. I'm not writing that report about civilians. This isn't the Navy, Wells. This is business. No, this is physics. Steam doesn't care about your business plan. Harper pulled out his phone and made a call. Uncle Bill? It's Tim. Yeah, I need you to back me up on something. He looked at me while he talked. I've got an inspector who's obstructing the restart. I need override authority. There was a pause. Yes, I understand the liability issues. I'll take full responsibility. He hung up and smiled. You're overruled, Wells. Sign the inspection report. No. That one word hung in the air between us like smoke from a bad weld. Harper's face went through several colors before settling on angry red. Then you're fired. He handed me a termination notice. It was already typed up, dated that morning. He'd come looking for a fight. I read it over while the wind whistled through the pipe supports around us. Failure to follow direct orders, insubordination, work slowdown, standard corporate boilerplate for when they want to get rid of someone who knows too much. You know what the funny thing is, Timothy? You just made the biggest mistake of your career, and you don't even know it yet. The only mistake was not firing you 3 weeks ago. Hand over your badge and your calibration tools. I unclipped my company badge and laid it on the control panel. My tools, though, those were mine. Bought and paid for over 16 years of refinery work. I packed them up slowly, methodically. Each wrench, each gauge, each calibrated instrument represented years of learning how to keep people alive in a place where everything was designed to explode, burn, or poison you. You got a real nice operation here, Timothy, I said, closing my toolbox. Be a shame if something happened to it. Are you threatening me? Just making an observation. You ever wonder why they call it a catastrophic failure? It's because when pressure vessels let go, the failure spreads. One bad weld can take down a whole complex. Harper was trying to look confident, but I could see sweat starting to bead on his forehead despite the morning breeze. Good luck with your restart, Timothy. You're going to need it. I don't need luck. I need results. I walked off that platform carrying 36 years of experience in my toolbox and knowing something Harper didn't. By terminating the only qualified inspector on site, he had just triggered the key personnel clause in the plant's operating permit. No qualified inspector meant no legal authority to operate under pressure. The insurance company's computers had already flagged the personnel change the moment he called HR to process my termination. The security guard at the gate was Charlie Davis, a good old boy who'd worked here almost as long as I had. Heading out early, Rich? Heading out for good, Charlie. Do me a favor and log the exact time I left, down to the minute. You sure? It's only 9:47. 9:47 it is. Make sure that goes in the official log. I drove home to my place outside Beaumont, a little house on 3 acres that I'd bought after my divorce 5 years ago. It was quiet, which felt strange after 16 years of being surrounded by the constant hum of compressors and the hiss of steam lines. I sat on my back porch with a beer and called Stephen Martinez. Stephen and I served together on the USS Michigan back in the 90s. He got out a year after I did and became a forensic engineer specializing in industrial accidents. When pressure vessels fail, Stephen's the guy insurance companies call to figure out why. More importantly, he's the guy OSHA calls when they suspect criminal negligence. Rich, how's the oil patch treating you? Just got fired this morning, Steve. The nephew finally worked up the courage, wanted me to sign off on defective welds. I refused. There was a pause. Stephen understood industrial systems the way a surgeon understands anatomy. How defective are we talking? I described the X-ray results in detail, the inclusion patterns, the size and location of the defects, the pressure ratings involved. Stephen whistled low. Rich, that's not defective. That's a bomb waiting to go off. If those joints fail under pressure, you're looking at a catastrophic steam release. How many people work in that unit? 200, maybe 220 on a full shift. Jesus Christ. And he wants to start it up anyway, plans to restart Monday morning, has override authority from his uncle, not if I have anything to say about it. I'm calling OSHA right now, and the Texas Railroad Commission, and probably the EPA while I'm at it. Steve, there's something else. I've been noticing some irregularities in the materials Harper's been ordering. Serial numbers that don't match up with the specifications. What kind of irregularities? Cheaper grades of steel, welding rods with different composition than what's called for in the procedures, small things that might not matter on a low-pressure system, but this isn't a low-pressure system. Stephen was quiet for a long moment. Rich, are you telling me he's been substituting substandard materials? I'm telling you the math doesn't add up. Harper's been bragging about coming in under budget on materials. In business, you don't come in under budget unless you're buying cheaper stuff. I need documentation. Purchase orders, material certifications, anything you can get me. I can't get them. I just got fired, remember? But your daughter works in oil services, right? She might have access to industry databases. My daughter Sarah was 28, a data analyst for a logistics company in Dallas that tracked supply chains for the energy sector. If anyone could trace where Harper's materials were coming from, it would be her. I'll give her a call. Do that. And Rich, don't go anywhere. This is about to get very complicated very fast. After Stephen hung up, I sat there looking at my toolbox. Those tools had never let me down. They'd helped me maintain steam systems on nuclear submarines where a single mistake could kill 150 sailors. They'd helped me inspect refineries from Texas to Alaska. They'd never signed off on anything that wasn't safe. Now Timothy Harper thought he could run a refinery without them. We'd see about that. I picked up my phone and called Sarah. Honey, it's Dad. I need a favor. Remember that materials database you showed me last Christmas? I need you to run some serial numbers for me. Dad, what kind of trouble are you in now? Sarah had that tone that told me she already knew this wasn't going to be a simple favor. The legal kind, hopefully for someone else. I need you to run some material certifications against purchase orders. See if what got delivered matches what got ordered. Sarah worked for Gulf Coast Logistics, a company that tracked supply chains for half the refineries between Houston and New Orleans. If there was funny business going on with materials, she'd be able to spot it. You know I could get fired for accessing client data without authorization. Honey, I just got fired for refusing to sign off on welds that could kill 200 people. Sometimes doing the right thing costs you something. There was a pause. Send me the serial numbers. I gave her everything I could remember from the past 3 months. Welding rod lot numbers, pipe fitting certifications, valve serial numbers, all the little details that Harper thought nobody noticed. Sarah, I need this fast. Harper's planning to restart Monday morning. Dad, that's tomorrow. I looked at my watch. It was already Saturday afternoon. Time moves different when you're not working. Then we don't have much time. While Sarah worked her magic with the databases, I called Nick Thompson. The kid picked up on the first ring. Rich, what's going on? Harper's been screaming at everyone since you left. He brought in some contractor from Louisiana, but the guy took one look at those x-rays and walked out. Good for him. Nick, I need you to do something, and it might cost you your job. What is it? I need you to document everything Harper does between now and Monday. Every order he gives, every corner he tries to cut, every person he brings in to replace me. Can you do that? Nick was quiet for a moment. Rich, he's already talking about bypassing the inspection entirely. Says we can start up and do the x-rays while the system's running. My blood went cold. You don't do pressure testing on a live system. That's like checking your brakes while you're driving down a mountain. Nick, if he tries that, you walk off. You hear me? No job is worth your life. What about the other guys? You tell them what I just told you. Anyone with half a brain knows you don't test welds under pressure. By Sunday morning, things started moving fast. Stephen's phone calls had worked. I got a call from Agent Charles Anderson with OSHA's Criminal Investigation Division. Mr. Wells, we've received information suggesting safety violations at Coastal Petrochemical. We need to meet. I met Anderson at a Denny's in Beaumont. He looked like an accountant, but he talked like someone who understood industrial accidents. Mr. Martinez tells me you have concerns about material substitution, more than concerns. Or, I've got 16 years of experience telling me something's wrong with the steel Harper's been using. Anderson opened a notebook. Tell me about the welds that failed inspection. I walked him through the whole thing. The slag inclusions, the pressure ratings, Harper's demand to override safety protocols. Anderson took notes and asked good questions. The kind of questions that told me he'd investigated industrial accidents before. Mr. Wells, We're going to need documentation, purchase orders, material certifications, anything that shows a pattern of substandard materials. That's when my phone rang. It was Sarah. Dad, you need to sit down for this. I was already sitting, but I gripped the phone tighter. What did you find? Harper's been buying steel from a company called Apex Materials in Mexico. On paper, it looks legitimate. But when I cross-reference the mill certifications with the actual test results from the manufacturer, the numbers don't match. What kind of numbers? Tensile, strength, carbon content, all the stuff that matters for pressure vessels. The steel Harper bought tests out at about 60% of what the certifications claim. Dad, this stuff shouldn't be used for anything more demanding than fence posts. Agent Anderson was listening to every word. He made a gesture for me to put the phone on speaker. Ma'am, this is Agent Anderson with OSHA. What you're describing sounds like criminal fraud. Sarah's voice got smaller. How criminal? The kind that involves federal prison time. Can you email me those database records? While Sarah sent over the documentation, Anderson explained what was going to happen next. We're issuing an emergency stop work order first thing Monday morning. The site will be sealed pending investigation. What about Harper? Mr. Harper is going to have some explaining to do. Monday morning came with the kind of gray sky that makes everything look ominous. I drove past the refinery on my way to get coffee and saw the federal vehicles, already in the parking lot. 3 black SUVs, a railroad commission truck, and what looked like an EPA mobile lab. My phone started ringing at 8:30. Rich, it's Nick. You need to see this. Harper's lost it completely. What do you mean? He's up on platform 7 trying to manually override the safety systems. Says he's going to start the unit himself. I could hear shouting in the background, men's voices, some of them scared. Nick, get everyone away from that platform now. I'm trying, but Harper's got a wrench and he's threatening anyone who gets close. This was bad. When desperate people start playing with pressure systems, people die. Nick, where are the federal agents? They're at the main gate arguing with security. Harper told the guards not to let anyone in. I hung up and called Agent Anderson. You need to get in there now. Harper's trying to manually start the system. We're working on it. Security won't let us pass the gate. Then call the local police. This is about to become a hostage situation. I drove to the refinery and parked outside the fence. Through the chain link, I could see Harper on the platform, still in his white hard hat, waving a pipe wrench at anyone who came near the control panel. The federal agents were at the gate, flashing badges and making phone calls. That's when I heard the sirens, not just 1 or 2, a whole convoy of them. The Texas State Police don't mess around when federal agents call for backup. The state police convoy rolled through the main gate like they owned the place, which at that moment, they pretty much did. Agent Anderson was right behind them in his government sedan. I watched through the fence as Harper realized his little standoff was about to get a lot more complicated. From where I stood, I could see Harper on platform 7, still waving that pipe wrench around like it was going to protect him from federal charges. The work crew had backed off to a safe distance, which was smart. Nobody wanted to be anywhere near that pressure system when Harper decided to play amateur engineer. My phone rang. It was Nick. Rich, the state police want to know if there's a safe way to get Harper down from there without him doing something stupid. I thought about it. Harper was scared, cornered, and holding a wrench next to equipment that could level half the plant if he hit the wrong valve. Tell them to cut the power to platform 7. Without electricity, he can't start anything even if he wants to. Already tried. Harper's got some kind of manual override rigged up. Looks like he's been planning this. That worried me. Desperate people do desperate things, but Harper was starting to sound less desperate and more crazy. Nick, how close are you to the emergency shutdown panel? About 50 yards. If I give you the word, can you hit the master cutoff, the big red button that kills everything? Yeah, but won't that cause problems with the other units? Less problems than Harper starting up a cracked steam system. I called Agent Anderson. You need to know that Harper's got some kind of manual override system rigged up. He can probably start that unit even with the power cut. How long would it take for the system to reach dangerous pressure? I did the math in my head. Steam pressure builds fast when you're dealing with a 900-degree system. Maybe 10 minutes. Less if he bypasses the safety valves. We're going in. What happened next was probably the most expensive 15 minutes in coastal petrochemicals history. The state police tactical team went up the platform stairs while Agent Anderson coordinated from the ground. Harper saw them coming and decided to make his stand. He started cranking valves. I heard the system come alive from 200 yards away, the low rumble of steam flowing through pipes, building pressure heading toward those cracked welds that hadn't been repaired. Every instinct I'd developed over 36 years of working with pressure systems told me to run. Instead, I called Nick. Hit the emergency shutdown, now. Rich, Harper's got the manual overrides. Hit it anyway, trust me. The master shutdown at a refinery is like pulling the plug on everything at once. Every pump stops, every valve closes, every system goes into safe mode. It's designed to prevent exactly what Harper was trying to do. But Harper had been planning this. His manual overrides kept the steam flowing for almost 3 minutes after Nick hit the shutdown. 3 minutes of 1,500 psi steam hitting welds that were already compromised. The first crack sounded like a gunshot. The second one sounded like the end of the world. Platform 7 disappeared in a cloud of superheated steam. The tactical team hit the deck and crawled backward as fast as they could move. Harper's screaming stopped when the steam cloud swallowed him. For about 30 seconds, nobody knew if Timothy Harper was dead or just unconscious. Then the steam cleared enough for the paramedics to get in there with full protective gear. They found Harper alive but badly burned, unconscious from the heat and steam exposure. The irony wasn't lost on me. Harper had been saved by the very safety systems he'd tried to override. The emergency shutdown had limited the steam release to about 10% of what it could have been. If Nick hadn't hit that button when he did, we'd have been looking at a crater instead of a refinery. Agent Anderson called me while the paramedics were loading Harper into the ambulance. "Mr. Wells, we're going to need your expertise to assess the damage." I walked back onto the site I'd been fired from 72 hours earlier. Platform 7 was a mess. Twisted metal, ruptured pipes, and the smell of superheated steel cooling in the Gulf Coast humidity. But the important thing was that the main pressure vessels had held. The emergency shutdown had worked exactly as designed. Nick met me at the base of the platform. "Rich, I'm sorry. I should have listened to you about those welds. You did good. Kid, you hit that shutdown when it counted. What happens now?" That was a good question. William Harper arrived at the plant about an hour later, looking like he'd aged 10 years since I'd last seen him. He found me in the control room, going over the damage reports with Agent Anderson. "Mr. Wells," he said, and his voice sounded tired, "I owe you an apology, and probably a lot more than that." What's going to happen to Timothy? Timothy is facing federal charges for criminal negligence and fraud. Even if he recovers from his injuries, he's looking at 5 to 10 years in federal prison. William Harper offered me my job back that afternoon. Not just my old job, but a promotion to Chief Safety Officer with authority over all maintenance and inspection operations. He also offered me a 50% raise and a written guarantee that no one could override my safety decisions. "There's one condition," he said. "I need you to oversee a complete re-inspection of every system Timothy touched. Everything gets checked again." It took 8 weeks to undo the damage Timothy Harper had done in 6 weeks as safety director. We cut out every weld that used his substandard materials and replaced them with proper American steel. We pressure tested every system twice. We recertified every piece of equipment. When we finally restarted the refinery, I was standing right there watching every gauge, every pressure reading, every temperature indicator. Nick Thompson was beside me, promoted to lead inspector with my recommendation. The restart went perfectly. No leaks, no problems, no shortcuts. 6 months later, I got word that Timothy Harper had pled guilty to federal fraud charges and been sentenced to 7 years in prison. His engineering license was permanently revoked, and he was ordered to pay $12 million in restitution to Coastal Petrochemical. As for me, I'm still here, still inspecting welds and pressure vessels, still making sure everyone goes home alive at the end of their shift. That's what matters. The money, the titles, the recognition, that's all nice. But at the end of the day, the only thing that counts is that 200 workers can go home to their families because someone insisted on doing things right. Experience costs money, but inexperience costs lives. Your certification is your shield, but your integrity is your sword. And in this business, you need both to survive. Corporate bullies come and go, but physics is forever. And physics always wins in the end.